Chosen One, there's a whole network of people who thought they could orchestrate your downfall, and they convinced a bunch of others to help them cover up their dirty work against you. These fools are now sitting in the wreckage of their own lives, feeling like the biggest idiots on the planet because everything they tried to do to you came back and demolished them instead. The universe just served them the most brutal lesson in cosmic justice, and you're about to find out exactly how spectacular their destruction really was. You've been setting verbal boundaries for months now, actually speaking your concerns out, loud, warning people about patterns you could see developing. You literally told them what would happen if they continued down their chosen paths. Every single prediction came true, and they ignored every single word. What you didn't know at the time was that one particular person was taking detailed notes of everything you said, not to learn from you, to use against you. This person was building a case, collecting evidence, preparing for something you never saw coming. And the betrayal that's about to unfold, it involves people you trusted completely. You touch situations and they transform. You see solutions where others see impossible problems. You speak, and people suddenly realize they should probably read a book, work on themselves, maybe even improve their relationship with something greater than themselves. This gift of yours, it's been driving certain people absolutely insane. There's someone who's been watching you for a long time, someone who looks at your natural ability to inspire change and sees competition instead of collaboration. This person has what you'd call a messiah complex. They genuinely believe they're the only one who should have influence, the only one with real knowledge, the only one who matters, and they've been building an army against you. The person at the center of this network is a master manipulator. They position themselves as someone being oppressed by your very existence. They claimed you were puppeting situations behind the scenes, controlling people with your influence, making them feel small and insignificant. They painted themselves as the brave truth-teller who was finally willing to expose your real nature. The network ate it up because it gave them permission to feel better about their own jealousy and insecurity. Finally, someone was saying what they had been thinking but were too afraid to voice, that maybe you weren't as special as everyone you thought. This fake victim convinced others to help them gather information about your past relationships, your patterns, your struggles. They acted like they had insider knowledge about cycles you'd been through, mistakes you'd made, vulnerabilities you'd shared in confidence. They started hosting secret meetings where they would discuss the problem of you, sharing strategies for how to handle your manipulation tactics, planning interventions to help people see through what they claimed was your carefully constructed facade. The most disturbing part, they convinced themselves they were doing righteous work. That, bringing you down, was actually a service to everyone around you. Meanwhile, you were completely unaware that your private conversations were being analyzed, your kindnesses were being reframed as calculated moves, and your genuine attempts to help were being twisted into evidence of some grand manipulation. Scheme. The spiritual attack that's coming next is going to shock you, and the way it backfires on them, that's going to restore your faith in cosmic justice forever. Something inside you began shifting months ago. Your protective instincts activated without you even realizing it. You started feeling like someone was always listening when they shouldn't be, like your private conversations were being shared, like your vulnerabilities were being weaponized against you. You couldn't put your finger on it at first, but you began holding back information, stopped sharing your personal business with certain individuals, started keeping your achievements and plans closer to your chest. The network noticed this shift immediately and interpreted it as proof of their theory. "See," they said to each other, "look how secretive they're becoming now. Look how they're pulling away. This proves what we've been saying all along." They had it completely backwards. You weren't pulling away because you were guilty of something. You were pulling away because your soul was protecting you from their agenda. Your growth mindset kicked into overdrive during this period. While they were focused on bringing you down, you were focused on building yourself up. While they were gossiping and scheming, you were learning and evolving and stepping more fully into your purpose. You outgrew the entire situation without even trying, and this drove them absolutely crazy. The person with the Messiah complex became increasingly desperate as they watched you continue to thrive despite their efforts to undermine you. They realized character assassination wasn't enough. They needed to escalate to a spiritual level, and that's when they made the biggest mistake of their lives. The Messiah complex person wasn't satisfied with just spreading lies about you. They decided to work with others who dabbled in questionable spiritual practices, people who claimed they could influence your relationships, your opportunities, your peace of mind through various methods. They convinced themselves they were justified because you supposedly had too much power and needed to be humbled. The irony is staggering. Here they were, claiming you were manipulative, while literally attempting to manipulate your entire reality through spiritual means. They tried to interfere with your connections to people who genuinely cared about you. They worked to isolate you from your support system. They even attempted to mess with your mental clarity and emotional stability. Multiple people in the network participated in this spiritual attack. Some provided personal items that belonged to you. Others shared intimate details about your life that could be used in their workings. A few even pretended to still be your friend while gathering intelligence for the group. The level of coordination was unprecedented. They had meeting schedules, role assignments, specific techniques they would use at specific times. They treated destroying you like a military operation. What they didn't account for was the protection that surrounds chosen ones. Every attack they sent your way bounced back to them with compound interest. Every lie they told about you got exposed as projection of their own behavior. Every attempt to drain your energy left them feeling more depleted than before. The universe was preparing something for them that would make them regret every single decision that led them to this point. And you're about to find out what happens when ordinary people try to fight cosmic forces. The cosmic protection around chosen ones isn't just metaphorical. It's a measurable force that responds to threats with mathematical precision. When you attack someone who's operating in divine purpose, you're not just fighting that person, you're fighting the very forces that appointed them to their mission. The network started experiencing what you'd call instant karma, but it was more systematic than random. It was like watching dominoes fall in perfect sequence. The person with the Messiah complex began losing control of their own life first. Their carefully constructed image started cracking in public. People began seeing through their manipulation tactics in real time. Their authority and influence started crumbling faster than they could repair it. The friends and family members who had helped with the spiritual attacks found themselves in increasingly uncomfortable positions. Relationships began falling apart. Health issues emerged from nowhere. Financial problems hit multiple people simultaneously. Legal troubles surfaced for several network members. Career setbacks happened in suspicious clusters. Even their children started having problems at school and in their social circles. Everything they had tried to make happen to you was happening to them instead, but amplified. It was like the universe was saying, "You want to see what real spiritual warfare looks like? Allow me to demonstrate." The person at the center started panicking as they watched their world collapse. They reached out to their network for support, expecting the same loyalty they had received when they were attacking you. Instead, they found themselves being thrown under the bus by the very people they had recruited to help them, and the abandonment that followed. It was so complete, so devastating, that it left them questioning whether they had ever had real relationships at all. The following is a message from Mike, founder of the Obsidian Inner Order, powered by Astral Atom. Look, I know you came here for your chosen one video, but I need a minute. If I don't speak this into the field now, I might never forgive myself. Some of us were born into fire, abused, exiled, haunted by truths no one around us could hold. That doesn't mean we're cursed. It means we were chosen to walk through the veil and come back with the map. Inside the Obsidian Inner Order, we gather every week, live on Zoom, face to face. And when I say real people, I mean it. A former military drone operator who now uses his mind as the remote. A millionaire CFO who walked away from everything to become a psychic in Noosa. A spiritual healer once trapped inside a satanic cult. A seer, a sage. A soul who left Mormonism and found the Gnosis instead. These are the ones who gave it all up when their calling hit. And that's just a glimpse. And every call is recorded. So when you're alone, when you're crawling through the dirt of your own awakening, you can press play and feel the field again. This is not for everyone, but maybe it's for you. Can you see yourself among us? Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in the description. Thank you all for supporting the broadcast. We quite literally could not do this without you. When the karma hit and everything started falling apart, the network's true nature revealed itself in the most brutal way possible. The person who had convinced everyone to help with their scheme suddenly found themselves completely alone. All those people who had promised to stand by them, who had made pacts and agreements to support their cause against you, they all scattered like roaches when the lights came on. No one wanted to be associated with the mess anymore. The older, more established members of the network were the first to bail. They had reputations to protect and couldn't afford to be connected to what was obviously becoming a public scandal. The younger members followed suit, realizing they had been manipulated into participating in something that was now destroying their own opportunities and relationships. Even the romantic partners and closest friends started distancing themselves. The person who had started it all was left sitting in the wreckage of their own creation, finally understanding what it felt like to be truly isolated and abandoned. They kept expecting someone to come to their rescue, to speak up for them the way they had spoken up for others in the past. That rescue never came, because when you build relationships based on manipulation and shared hatred rather than genuine connection, those relationships evaporate the moment things get difficult. The cognitive dissonance was overwhelming for all of them. They had convinced themselves they were the good guys exposing a fraud, only to discover they were actually the villains attacking a genuinely chosen individual. And the desperate attempts at damage control that followed, those just made everything worse. As the network crumbled and the consequences multiplied, people started scrambling to save themselves in ways that only accelerated their downfall. Some tried to claim they never really supported the attacks against you. Others insisted they were just following orders or going along to get along. A few attempted to position themselves as victims who had been manipulated into participating. The person at the center made increasingly desperate attempts to regain control. They tried love-bombing people back into compliance. They attempted to shift blame onto others. They even tried reaching out to you directly, hoping to manipulate you into believing their sob story about how they were actually the victim in all of this. None of it worked. In fact, every attempt at damage control just revealed more layers of their deception. People who had once hung on their every word now saw right through their tactics. Former allies began exposing their methods publicly. The carefully constructed web of lies and half-truths unraveled faster than it had been woven. Social media. Posts were screenshot and shared. Private messages were leaked. Voice recordings surfaced. The entire network's communication history became public knowledge, revealing the depth of their coordinated campaign against you. Meanwhile, you continued, focusing on your own growth and purpose, largely unaware of the chaos erupting in their world. You were too busy stepping into your destiny to pay attention to their destruction and the vindication that was coming your way. It was going to be so complete, so undeniable, that even your worst enemies would have to acknowledge your true nature. While all this drama was playing out behind the scenes, you were experiencing your own transformation in real time. Every intuitive hit you'd had about certain people was being validated publicly. Every boundary you'd set was proving to be necessary. Every warning you'd given was coming to pass exactly as you'd predicted, often word for word. People started coming forward with information about what had really been happening. The truth about the network, their meetings, their plans, their spiritual attacks. It all came to light in a way that left no room for doubt or denial. Screenshots of their group chats were leaked. Audio recordings of their planning sessions surfaced. Even physical evidence of their spiritual workings against you was discovered and shared. The person who had claimed to have deep knowledge about your past was exposed as someone who barely knew you at all. Their insider information was revealed to be a combination of lies, assumptions, and projections of their own behavior. Instead of feeling angry or vindictive when you learned the truth, you felt something else entirely. Clarity, pure, crystalline clarity about who you really are and what you're really here to do. You realized that this entire experience had been part of your journey as a chosen one. It had forced you to stop doubting yourself and start trusting your divine knowing completely. It had taught you to protect your energy and be more discerning about who you allow into your inner circle. Most importantly, it had shown you just how powerful you really are. The fact that a whole network of people felt threatened enough by your existence to coordinate attacks against you speaks volumes about your true influence and potential, and the recognition that followed. It changed everything. As the dust settled and you gained perspective on everything that had happened, a profound realization emerged that transformed your entire understanding of your purpose. You weren't just someone who had survived an attack, you were someone who had been specifically targeted because of your chosen status, your divine mission, your ability to impact the world in ways that threatened people operating from ego and manipulation. The person with the Messiah complex had recognized your true nature before you had fully embraced it yourself. They saw your potential to help people, to inspire transformation, to create positive change. And they felt so threatened by it that they organized a military-style campaign to stop you. Their attacks weren't random acts of jealousy. They were strategic attempts to derail your purpose, to make you doubt your calling, to prevent you from stepping fully into your power and fulfilling your divine mission. The fact that their efforts not only failed, but backfired so dramatically, proves that you are indeed protected, guided, and destined for something greater than any human agenda could understand or interfere with. Every solution that flows through you, every person you help, every life you touch, it's all part of a larger plan that goes far beyond what any earthly power could comprehend or control. The spiritual attacks that were meant to diminish your influence instead amplified it. The lies that were meant to isolate you instead attracted your true tribe. The attempts to destroy your reputation instead established your credibility as someone who threatens the forces of manipulation and deception simply by existing. You are exactly who you were meant to be, chosen one, and the network that tried to destroy you. They're about to face the final humiliation. The people who had helped orchestrate the attacks against you now found themselves in the most humiliating position imaginable, and their suffering was far from over. They realized they had been manipulated into attacking someone who was genuinely good-hearted and gifted. They had allowed their own insecurities and jealousies to be weaponized against an innocent person who had never done anything but try to help others. Even worse, they had to watch as everything they had tried to destroy in you flourished instead, while their own lives fell apart in increasingly dramatic ways. The financial losses continued mounting. Marriages dissolved. Children became estranged. Health problems multiplied. Legal troubles escalated. Career prospects evaporated. Some tried to reach out with apologies, hoping that acknowledging their wrongdoing might stop the cascade of consequences. Others retreated into denial, refusing to accept their role in what had happened. A few became bitter and resentful, unable to accept that they had been so thoroughly wrong about everything. The majority simply felt stupid, embarrassingly, humiliatingly, devastatingly stupid. They had sacrificed their integrity, damaged their relationships, compromised their spiritual well-being, and destroyed their reputations, all to help someone else's ego attack a person who represented everything they claimed to value. The person who had started it all faced the worst consequences of all. Not only did they lose everything they had worked to build, but they became a cautionary tale that others would reference for years to come. Their name became synonymous with what happens when you try to fight the universe itself. Their story became a warning that parents would tell their children about the importance of recognizing and respecting chosen ones. The consequences for the network members weren't contained to their immediate circle. The ripple effects spread outward like waves from a stone dropped in still water, touching every area of their lives in ways they never anticipated. Their professional reputations crumbled as word spread through their industries. Colleagues who had once respected them began questioning every interaction they'd ever had. Business partnerships dissolved overnight. Job opportunities dried up completely. The person with the Messiah complex found themselves blacklisted from social circles they had worked decades to penetrate. Invitations stopped coming. Phone calls went unreturned. People literally crossed the street to avoid having to speak to them. Family gatherings became torture sessions where relatives would ask pointed questions about what had really happened. Children stopped bringing friends home because they were embarrassed by their parents' involvement in something so obviously wrong. The spiritual consequences intensified daily. Those who had participated in the attacks against you reported having nightmares, experiencing unexplained anxiety, and feeling like they were being watched by unseen forces. Several sought help from various spiritual practitioners, only to be told that they had brought curses upon themselves by attacking someone under divine protection. Even their attempts to start over in new locations failed. Somehow, their reputation preceded them wherever they went. The universe seemed determined to ensure that their story served as a permanent warning to others. Meanwhile, their former friends and family members who had stayed neutral during the attacks began sharing stories about how they had always sensed something special about you. People came forward with testimonies about times you had helped them, inspired them, or provided guidance that changed their lives for the better. The contrast became undeniable. On one side, you had a network of people whose lives were falling apart in increasingly dramatic ways. On the other side, you had a growing community of people whose lives had been positively impacted by your presence and purpose. The universe was making it crystal clear which energy was blessed and which was cursed. And you were just getting started. While they were dealing with the ongoing aftermath of their choices, you were stepping more fully into your purpose with each passing day. You began trusting your intuition completely. No more second-guessing, no more seeking validation from others, no more dimming your light to make anyone comfortable ever again. You started attracting people who appreciated your gifts rather than feeling threatened by them. Opportunities began opening up that aligned perfectly with your mission and values. Resources flowed to you from unexpected sources. Your ability to see solutions and create positive change expanded exponentially. You stopped apologizing for being who you are and started embracing your role as a chosen one with confidence, grace, and unshakable knowing. The attacks that were meant to destroy you had actually catalyzed your evolution into someone even more powerful and purposeful than before. Every lie they told about you became a truth they couldn't handle. Every weakness they tried to create in you became a strength they couldn't compete with. People began seeking you out specifically because of what you had survived. Your testimony became proof that chosen ones are indeed protected by forces that human manipulation cannot overcome. Your influence expanded beyond anything you had imagined possible. Your voice reached people you had never met. Your example inspired others to step into their own divine purpose without fear. The network had tried to make you smaller, and instead they had forced you to become everything you were always meant to be. Your story sends a clear message to anyone who might consider targeting a chosen one in the future, and that message reverberates through both seen and unseen realms. The universe protects its own with a precision that defies human understanding. When you attack someone who is operating in divine purpose, you're not just fighting that person, you're fighting the very forces that appointed them to their mission. No network is strong enough to overcome divine protection. No manipulation is clever enough to derail someone who is truly called. No amount of jealousy or insecurity can diminish the light of someone who is genuinely chosen. The people who attacked you learned this lesson in the most brutal way possible, and their experience serves as a permanent warning to others who might be tempted to follow the same path. Your vindication isn't just personal, it's cosmic. It demonstrates that truth always emerges, justice always prevails, and those who are called to serve will always be protected in ways that their enemies cannot understand or counteract. The network thought they were fighting you, but they were actually fighting the universe itself. And the universe never loses. You are exactly who you were meant to be, chosen one. Your journey through this trial has only confirmed what was always true. You are protected, you are guided, and you are destined for greatness that no human agenda can prevent. The people who tried to stop you are still dealing with the consequences of their choices. And you're just getting started on a mission that will impact generations. That's the power of being chosen. That's the protection that surrounds you. And that's why no weapon formed against you will ever prosper. Welcome to your destiny.